Alright my G's, in this video I want to show you how to make a gritty sci-fi neurofunk bass stab with a lot of grit. I already said grit. It sounds like this. Okay, so very aggressive. And it's actually just made from a square wave and a sine wave and a tiny bit of white noise. Then it goes through a number of distortion layers. Then it goes through some filtering and some more stereo control. And then it goes through enhanced sort of stereo effects. Okay. So, shall we break it down then, my friends? Shall we break it down? Basically, you've got one LFO, but I've used up all the modulations on it, so I've had to create another one, which has the same setting. So it's sort of, this kind of rate here, you see 1.018 hertz. This is on a 174 BPM project. And it's a little just ramped down with a little attack at the start, a little shark fin attack, you know? And I wanted to not use the unison because it changed the sound a lot. And I recently made a video about how the chorus in Phase Plant's not so great. And my favorite way to create stereo sounds from a mono sound is through like the comb filter or stuff like that. And the distortion spread as well. But yeah, basically on this one then, I wanted to try and get the most powerful, almost dry kind of square synth sound, but then give it some stereo in such a way where it keeps the whole power in and doesn't sacrifice any of it through the unison or too many stereo plugins, you know? So it's all just that sort of powerful mono square and sine. So all you've got is you've got a square at -24 on the analog shapes, and you've got a sine at -24, and then you've got a low pass filter at around 1k on both of those, and then you've got a touch of noise which kind of goes up only to about 4% here, and the gain is turned down a bit, so it's pretty quiet, with the slope a little bit to the left all the way in stereo, and high passed up to about 3k here. Okay, so those are like the source elements, and I haven't played with the envelopes on the sound, so it's just kind of the defaults, and then you've got already some movement happening. So on my LFO, I'm doing the slightest amount of movement on like lots of parameters, so it's really a case of it's almost just like a flat square stab essentially, with not too much crazy movement on. But to give it some kind of life, you've got a load of like movements which is just sort of like 2% to the left, 2% to the right, and that's just giving it like a tiny bit of life in the stab, you know? So for example, you see here, it moves the cutoff a slight bit to the left, it moves the Q a little bit to the right to give it this little bump. Okay, in the filter section. You've got a little bit of this pulse width modulation happening. So it's these like subtle shifts in the tonality always. And you've also got a little bit of FM from the sine wave going into the phase of the square, and then to the left about -48. It's quite a subtle one. It does help to give a bit of a nicer character though. So that's really all you've got to begin with. And then a lot of the sound then comes from the distortion. So I actually use two distortions. The first one is they're both from the shaper table. The first one is the duck fat under the creative. And the second one is the Brusus, which sounds like a dinosaur or something. Brucerus. Brusanosaurus. So there's quite a lot of modulations on these as well. So the drive changes a bit on both. The mix a little bit down on this one. And the bias gets a bit of changing as well. That makes a big difference too here, you know. That's all well and good, you know, but just give me your vital skin. Sorry, I'm just repeating what someone randomly commented recently from a different video. That was just my YouTube brain sort of in overdrive. Right, overdrive. So the bias, that changes the tonality as well, so it's worth toying with. The phase as well. So you get some great other tones using that. But yeah, settles on there, but there's a little bit of movement, as you see, on the phase on both of these guys. And then we get into stereoing it, okay? So obviously those two distortions give it all of that kind of gritty character, really, you know? So that's how it kind of sounds in the beat. But it's still really, really dry and quite mono, you know? So now I do some stereo magic using the comb filter, flicked on the stereo mode, left the polarity at plus, and then modulating the amount of the frequency amount here. So it starts at 172 and goes up about 10 or 11%. Mix. Just dialing that mix into a perfect spot where it's got that stereo addition, but you've also still got the dry signal from the mono as well. So yeah, it sounds really great around 39 there. Okay, then we'll move on to lane 2, and here we've got 4 plugins. The reason I do it like this in like lane 1, 2, and 3 is just so I can see them all on one screen, you know, even though they kind of go a little bit down on the second 2 here. But yeah, the non-linear. This is applying some subtle shaping to the mid-range. As you can see, the saturate mode is on, and it's got this wonderful shape in the mid-range where it does some, you know, some nice changes to the frequency content there, and it got a bit of movement on the cutoff and the Q, which is kind of the shape of this kind of chaos that you see here. It almost gives a slight vocal tonality to it. If you turn it up, you can really hear what it's doing. But yeah, I've left it somewhere in the middle. So it's got this slight vocal growl brought into it. Okay, next we have the ring mod with the bandpass noise. It's just adding free digital noise on top of everything. The frequency is set to very high, and basically all the knobs are to the right. And then I just mix in the sort of noise hit almost on the LFO here. Okay, so that adds loads, fills out all the high end, you know? So it's really, really nice. Then I use the comb filter again, and this is basically, again, creating another stereo signal to the sound. So it really brings it out even more, you know? And again, mixing it in around 38% is a good number, so it kind of just blends perfectly, gives you the dry signal and the wet signal at a nice balance. And again, moving the frequency amount on the LFO, but this time it's on a different kind of area of the frequency spectrum. But it's definitely having them together. It's more stereo joy, I would say. It's like you've got 2 extra stereo signals that work well to create a new level of a new dimension to the sound, you know? And it's not, you know, as I said, it's not been overly weakened by using the chorus or the ensemble or the unison, which changes the mono power a lot. These guys keep the mono power in. Then shaping the sound a bit more with a bit of a notch filter here. So I'm just targeting the mid-range and giving it some movement here with a gentle notch. It's not a complete notch like this. It's like this kind of bell-shaped notch. You can control how much you're dipping down. So I'm going only down like 4.5 dB. But you can hear, gives the sound more of a shape. So it sounds good. All right, a few more effects and then we're nearly done, my G's. So I have next the Convolver, and this is with the live room setting, which is lovely on this sound. I've done it on the whole thing, like with all the low end in, but it kind of just works to add a lot of character on the whole sound. It's only mixed in at 19%. But yeah, gives it more organic kind of feeling, and just puts it into a space finally, into a real space, you know. So it's important to make it sound not overly dry and aggressive, you know. Then another non-linear filter, this time with a notch here, and this one's it does take out quite a lot of mid-range here. You can see the notch is going down all the way, but it's quite a narrow one, and it moves around a lot. So it's not like I'm taking out, you know, loads of the mid-range all at once. It's kind of like a sharp amount of mid-range is cut, but it's always on the move, you know, so you don't lose too much power. But you kind of change it now to having a little bit more emphasis on the lows and the highs. So it does take out a fair chunk of mids. But in doing so, it kind of makes it feel a bit more powerful. You know, you can try it out in the beat here as well. It does change it quite a lot, but basically you can kind of decide at this point, you know, which route you want to go down. But I feel like it was a little bit better like that. It sort of gave a bit more space for the drums by doing that, you know, so it kind of lets it sits around the drums a bit better with this sort of frequencies taken out here. So it was quite a good choice, I think, for that one. Then I just added a little high shelf boost. You know, this kind of took out a little bit of volume, this one. Because it took out quite a lot of the mids, so I kind of lost a little bit of power with it, you know. When I brought the high end back up again, it kind of gave you that volume back. Okay, so if you take them both off, put them both on, it's kind of like I've given it all a bit more high end push, and I've sacrificed some of the mids, you know. But like I said, it fits better in the mix down in this with these kind of drums. Maybe on a different project I might not use that non-linear filter there though, and have it a bit fuller in the mids. It's kind of and I'm rambling on this, but it's I'm still a bit 50-50 on it, if I'm honest. It's it kind of fattens up the lows and the highs really nicely, but it does take out a fair bit of mids. So if I could mix it in, that'd be great, but you can't really do that with this kind of non-linear filter. But anyway, I think I preferred it on in the end, so I'm leaving it on. And then you've got a little dual delay to finish. This is only like 1%, but it's basically just gives a tiny tail. Okay, so that's then the Mecha Square Neurofunk stab bass kind of synth sound, you know. So very, very present, very, very gritty, and again, you can try some other filter shapes. We could have a little toy around with some other ones here, and you might find you got a little more mid-range power back if you go for that kind of filter there. But I'll leave it as it was. I still kind of prefer this more emphasis in the lows and the highs for this sound. I think that sounds great. So anyway, that's the Mecha Square, and basically, I just wanted to see if I could create a really powerful sound just using sort of like a square wave and a sine wave, and try and make it have enough stereo information and harmonics so that it's got a bit of character and interest, but without using like the unison or chorus, which would sort of start to bleed a lot of the low end power out. So I think I did quite a good job of using a couple of comb filters again here to give you that stereo edge while keeping the sound like super, super powerful still. So it's a great powerful stab that, you know, once you then take that out and process it, because I think that's kind of what it would need next. You know, it would need some processing. For example, as a quick little tester, I could run over a quick space blender on it and see kind of what tonalities I can get with that kind of convolution, you know. So quite interesting. So at that point, you know, a bit of post-processing magic, and you can really take it that one step further outside of Phase Plant as well. But you've got that original source material, which is super, super powerful, you know, because it hasn't been over processed to the point of ruining the power of the sound, you know. So it's the kind of sound that will lend itself really well to a bit of post-processing and layering, and then it'll sound like, you can get it to sound more organic, but have like that pure synth power still within the sound as well, you know. So hopefully that was a little helpful video today, my G's, on a bit of Phase Plant sound design and how you can make some sort of really clean and powerful aggressive synth sounds without over weakening them. And then you can always sort of, as I said, post-process and add extra stereo and convolution afterwards to get it to be even more organic and have even more depth on it, but retain all of that original Phase Plant power. All right, my G's, thanks a lot for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave a like and a comment and subscribe as well. And check out the links in my videos, the description box for my Patreon. Thank you to Midlife Crisis, who joined quite recently, and we'll be doing our next feedback live stream soon. So come along and join in our Discord for all the fun. Check out also my other preset packs for Phase Plant, Vital, Serum, and Current. And hit me up for one-on-one lessons or mastering services as well via email. Thank you. That's it for me today. More from me soon. Much love.